It was an article that caused nationwide outrage and damaged the reputation of the University of Virginia. But now Rolling Stone is backtracking on its bombshell report about rape on campus, written by one Sabrina Rubin Erdely. Based on one source, a woman they call Jackie, the magazine then releases this statement. In the face of new information, there now appear to be discrepancies in Jackie's account, and we've come to the conclusion that our trust in her was misplaced. With me, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Judith Miller. All right, Judy, she comes forward. She says she's raped, and a national magazine almost takes down a university, a fraternity. The guys in the fraternity, easily identifiable. How does this happen?
You know, it's the question that every journalist in New York, Washington, across the nation is asking. I mean, first of all, Rolling Stone has a reputation, a well-deserved reputation, for investigative, hard-hitting, take-no-prisoners stories.
Really?
Absolutely does. And I long ago wrote an article for them, one, Truth in Advertising, and they were great to work with, and they were very thorough. They had fact checkers. Well, it turns out that last year, because Rolling Stone, like all magazines, is under budgetary pressure, fired a lot of the people who made the quality assurance that we've come to depend on from that magazine. And I think that something happened here. We don't know, because Will Dana, who is the managing editor of Rolling Stone, sent me an email saying he wasn't going to go beyond what he had posted.
What I just read.
Exactly what you've just read for our audience. And so we don't really know what happened. I mean, he said that the reporter in question, who's no spring chicken, she's not an ingenue.
She's had some problems in the past, hasn't she?
She's 42, but she's had 18 stories on the Rolling Stone website. She knows what she's doing, but she somehow was persuaded that she didn't have to ask the young men, whom she didn't name, but accused of this horrendous rape, gang rape. She didn't have to find them, she didn't have to identify them in print, and she didn't even have to ask them whether or not they had carried out such an act. You know, Judge, that's journalism 101.
Look, it's journalism, and I investigated these cases, rape cases. You try them. Number one, her facts were easily critiqued. They were not consistent with the reality of what happened.
Right.
She misidentifies the date, the place. She says she's blood spattered, and yet no one seems to care about whether or not any of this is corroborated. And you know, Judy, I got to tell you, the one thing that bothered me is she called them and she said she didn't want it published right before it was published. That tells me that she knows there's a problem, and they still went forward and published it.
But it could be that if anything like this, remotely like this, happened to her, Judge, she would have been really traumatized by the event and have had a lot of second thoughts about having it published, realizing that it would bring out the whole episode again and the whole trauma again. I can see that she would be very, very hesitant at some point in this process to go public. But that meant that the magazine had a double obligation to make sure that everything that she was saying was true.
Okay, defamation. What you've got is, first of all, the UVA has pretty much shut down fraternities, but you've got the kids in there in the frat house who were working with the police, saying we didn't do anything like this. And do you think that they've got a cause of action? Is Rolling Stone, I mean, they have fallen below journalistic standards, correct?
Well, I think that, look, we still don't know the full story, but if what people are saying and what the magazine itself has said is true, yes, they have a significant problem journalistically, and perhaps, and you would know this better than me, perhaps legally, at least one of the people who was associated with that fraternity, one of the young men, has hired an attorney, and I'm wondering whether or not they have some legal liability, which is perhaps why Will Dana couldn't say more than he was able to say on that website.
But one of the things that Dana said very quickly is that when he first read the article, he said, I thought, are you sure? Even he had questions, but he didn't go with it. Shame on him.
Well, you know, it would be terrible if this article, if it falls apart, would really undermine the whole interest in sexual violence on campus.
Thank you, Judy Miller. We'll be right back. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.